We are here in Belgrade at the European Pastors Council, and here with me is Gábor Mihalec. Thank you for being here and accepting the invitation.
I feel very privileged to be here. Thank you.
Gábor is not only a pastor, but he is also a marriage and couple therapist, and he holds a PhD in pastoral psychology. So, great experience. How many years exactly have you been counseling?
Well, I do counseling for about 10 years now in different life situations. I started with preparing couples for marriage, and then came the heavy stuff. Okay. Couples in conflicted relationships, with infidelity issues, with midlife crisis issues that are infecting their marriages, and situations like this.
And Gábor, you also write books.
Yes.
How many books have you written so far?
Well, in Hungarian I have about a dozen of books, but two of them were published in English. One of them was published just recently, yes. No More Games, and I'm very thankful for the division that they funded the translation and the publishing of that book. And the other one was published a few years earlier at the Review and Herald publishing house at the General Conference, which is about preparation for marriage. This one is about preventing infidelity at a life stage when it doesn't come even to your mind, but what can you do to prevent it not to happen in your relationship?
This book was actually presented to all council participants. So when you go back home, when you have free time on your plane back, just read it. Highly recommend it. But your books have drawn attention not only of the Adventists, but not Adventists alike. Can you tell us the story?
Yes, this is true. The first book, I Do, How to Create a Build Marriage, was first funded in Hungary from the division by the Creative Evangelistic Fund, and we have printed it in nearly 30,000 copies. We gave it to the marriage registration offices, and they gave it as a gift for all those couples who applied to get married. So in 2010, more than half of every couple who got married in that year received that book as a gift. So it was a very good way to catch the attention of the society that it is a great need to prepare not only for the wedding day, but also for marriage. Yeah. And from that on, we got quite famous as a church among people from the society, among other churches as well, as experts of marriage, of preparation for marriage. I got lots of invitations to other churches as well. Amen. So we are very happy about this because it was a very good icebreaker.
I can imagine. So you counsel not only Adventists, but not Adventists as well?
Yes, this is true, but if I want to be totally honest, I need to tell, unfortunately, I am counseling more non-Adventists like Adventists, because Adventist couples have the tendency to show the good side of their marriage, of their lives, and they only tell you afterwards they got already divorced, that they had issues that needed some help, but they don't come really to counseling.
Oh, right.
And I'm very sorry about that.
So having experienced counseling on both sides, yes. What could you say about pastors' marriages? We are at the Pastors' Council. Do you think they're a different tribe? Are they better off? Are they in a better shape? Or do they have more struggles? What's your experience?
I think they are a different tribe, but not because they are better off, but because they are much more lonely than all other parts of our church family, because we need to show to the outside how good we are, how close we are to God, and it just doesn't fit into the picture that we have problems. I met many pastors who are desperately lonely in their ministry, in their marriages too, and don't know where to find help. So I think we need to have an eye on our pastors as our biggest human resources in our church, to help them to keep their marriages vital, because our pastoral marriages are the biggest testimony for the love of God, I think.
So exactly, what could you advise? If you're a pastor and you are having issues, where do you go? Because if you're just a church member, you go to your pastor, you can talk to your pastor. But what should pastors do with these issues?
Yes, I can talk about my own union. Our union has a special fund for pastors in need, and we give them support to get a therapist to talk about their issues there, and they even don't have to pay for it because the union pays for it. And I think many of our countries have similar funds to help to support pastors. Of course, it is our duty as Family Ministries departments to keep our eyes on our pastors. Of course, it is a very sensitive issue. You cannot go just to a pastor and say, "Hi, I think you have problems with your marriage." Who am I to tell this to them? But we need to make them aware of the changes that are happening in the marriage, to make them the way easier to get some help, to help them to receive, to accept help at all. We need to convince them that it is not a shame if you are struggling with issues in your marriage. Just like if you have problems with your teeth, you go to a dentist. It's not a shame. Just like this, it's not a shame to go to a marriage counselor if you have issues in your marriage. If you have conflicts that you cannot resolve on your own, then there is some professional help that you can receive.
And are there any issues specific to pastoral couples or any red flags that usually go up when you are a married pastor or a married woman pastor that you should be aware of?
Yes. I think there are issues that are very specific for our ministry. For example, we are constantly overloaded with the problems of others. And we don't want to hear problems at home. And we tend to say, okay, I have enough from problems. Show me your better side. And pastors' spouses can be very, very lonely next to somebody who is working in a helping profession, who should listen to the problems, to the emotions. So this is one side of the story. The other side of the story, about which I wrote a whole chapter in this book, is that as pastors, we often don't recognize how endangered we are because we become very easily objects of projections of people which we never wanted to become. A pastor needs to be very kind, very empathetic always when we talk to other persons, and maybe there can be some erotic thoughts in the mind of the other which we never wanted to create, but we become objects of these thoughts, emotions. So the most heartbreaking experience for me is when I hear about a pastor who is crossing boundaries which he never should have crossed. But it happens sometimes, and I heard from other countries too that it is happening. So we need to be aware how to protect the boundaries of our relationship, and it starts in our marriage and in our ministry. It is important to set these boundaries. For example, for me, it is important not to travel together in my car with a lady from the church who is not my wife. This is a reserved place. I was listening to nearly 100 different stories connected to infidelity in my therapy office, and I know which part the car of the man plays in that stories. So keep your car safe.
Yeah.
Or when you are greeting somebody, it happens to me too and to other pastors too, that you come down from the pulpit on Sabbath and a lady comes and wants to hug you. It was such an inspirational sermon. Thank you, Pastor. It is my responsibility to keep the relationship safe and say, I'm so glad that God spoke to you through my words. I'm so happy about it. It is my responsibility to decide whom I let come close to me. Of course, we hug people who are common friends of us together with my wife. That's okay. Or if somebody comes who could be my mother or my grandmother in the church and she needs that hug, okay, that's not a problem. I don't talking about keeping people away from us. But be aware, what will you create in the mind of the other when you're doing or telling something to them?
Dealing with issues and actually, helping people when they already have issues is one thing, but how about preventing them? I know you are also a father.
Yes, I am.
How old are your children?
I have a daughter who is 16 years old now and a son who is 20.
All right, so that's a very difficult age. And
It is, I
it's
can
the
tell you.
age like that they're getting prepared really to marrying
Yes.
in the near future. Do you think we do enough to educate youth about marriage, about getting them ready?
I don't think that it can be enough at all. But I think the biggest thing that we can teach them is our skills. It's not knowledge in the first line. These are skills. The skill of effective communication, the skill of conflict resolution. I think if we can teach our young people to do this, then we gave them a very effective package for the whole life. It is very important for me, for instance, when I have a conflict with my children, and I do have some conflicts. It is a very sensitive age in which they are. And I see my daughter sitting in her room looking at me like this. It is an arena of emotions where I got invited right now by this behavior. So I sit next to her, maybe I bring a cup of hot chocolate, like an icebreaker, and I help her to formulate what is going on inside of her. And in this way I create a pattern for her. I want her to learn not to stay alone with hurt emotions. I want her to open up and to tell me, Daddy, what you have done hurt me very deeply, and I don't want to talk to you right now. If she comes to a stage when she can formulate this, then I say to myself, yes, mission completed. Because we need to use every possibility to teach them how to express themselves. Because if they learn it, then they learn how to set boundaries in their relationships, not to get exploited, not to get violated, and we gave them a lot if we could achieve this.
And the children as well follow the example, right?
Oh yes, they do. They will not follow what you tell them to do, but what you see that you are doing. This is very important.
Thank you. Any single piece of advice to pastoral marriages that you would like to share?
Yes, I would like our pastors to get intentional in their marriages. Don't take it for granted that it is good when you choose the right partner and it will be always good by itself. Think about the biggest achievements of your life that you are proud of. Maybe in sports, maybe in your education, maybe in your pastoral work. It didn't come by itself. You had to do something for it. And I want to put on your heart the message that you do something every day for your marriage in order to keep it healthy, vital, because this is the way how you can give the biggest testimony about God's love to keep your marriage in a healthy situation. And this will show to everyone that God is a loving God whom we serve.
Thank you, Gábor. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.